That's six in a row.
Right.
Rodgers not the only one whose future seems up in the air in Pittsburgh, right? Coach Mike Tomlin now has lost 7 straight playoff games as the head coach in Pittsburgh. That ties former Bengals coach Marvin Lewis for the longest postseason losing skid in NFL history. And so here's Rodgers on Tomlin's coaching future there in Pittsburgh.
This league has changed a lot in my 21 years. You know, when you hear a conversation about the Mike Tomlins of the world, Matt LaFleur's of the world, those are just two that kind of I've played for. And when I first got in the league, there wouldn't be conversation about whether those guys were on the hot seat. You know, but the way that the league is covered now, and the way that there's snap decisions, and the validity given to the, you know, the Twitter experts and all the, you know, experts on TV now who make it seem like they know what the hell they're talking about. To me, that's an absolute joke.
How do you approach a decision about your future?
I'm not even in that mindset as I sit here tonight. I'm more in the mindset of what transpired in this stadium, and, you know, certainly what we did and didn't do. Not a big picture mentality as I sit here tonight.
What have you learned from being with Mike for a season about him?
I've answered that a number of times. I've talked extensively about how I feel about Mike, and I just did in that answer. So, thanks.
All right, so 7 straight playoff losses for the Pittsburgh Steelers. At one point in all 7 of those games, they've been down by at least 21 points, by 3 touchdowns. Obviously, we heard from Aaron Rodgers and how he feels about Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin not ready to answer the question. Fair enough. Do you think it's time for Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin to part ways?
Yes. And it breaks my heart to say, as a diehard Steeler fan, as somebody who loves me some Mike Tomlin, admire him, respect him in a lot of ways. No, the Steelers should not walk into the office and fire Mike Tomlin. But Mike Tomlin and the Steelers should mutually agree to part ways. There's a certain level of respect that you accord him. We understand that Biscotti, no matter how much he may have respected John Harbaugh, made that decision. And if it has to come to that, then you have to do it. But time's up. The Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016. The Steelers have now lost 7 consecutive playoff games. Before last night, the Steelers were outscored 73-0 in the first quarter of those previous 6 playoff games. They were down by at least 21 points in every one of those playoff games. And they lost by 24 last night. What that shows is that you never belonged in the playoffs. When you have that level of consistent ineptitude in the postseason, what that says is that you never belonged in the postseason. You got there, you know, whether it's luck or whatever the case may be. If the Baltimore Ravens, hypothetically speaking, had gotten to the postseason, we would have sat up there and said, okay, what's going to happen in this game? All right, Lamar's loose. This is a new season. You got nothing to lose now. Right. I mean, you know, you win and go on or go home, but your regular season record ain't counting against you. We had looked at King Henry. We had looked at Bateman. We had looked at Zay Flowers and those boys. We said, you know, what they going to do? We going to find out. But we walked into the Steelers, no matter how much hyperbole we engaged in yesterday, and I'm clearly guilty of that. I'm the ringleader with that bad boy because I was in Pittsburgh and I was hyped. I'm like, I'm going to freeze. I got the roof of this team. They got to make it. You got to show I'm here for a reason. You know what I'm saying? I was praying that they'd do something. But in my heart of hearts, I was sitting up there, and anybody that pulled me aside off the air, like, how we going to do it? And I was like, oh, no. My brothers, they're coming after Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how a 43-year-old mobile quarterback is going to get the hell away from these brothers. I don't see how it's going to happen. And I'm just saying that you look at that, and then you look at the $160+ million they spent in the offseason to improve your defense. And how did the defense look for the vast majority of the season? It was suspect, okay? Yeah. So the defense looking suspect. DK Metcalf don't look like a number one. It looked like you should have kept Pickens and tried to do everything you could to keep Pickens with Metcalf, okay? Or keep Pickens and not get Metcalf, rather than have him look the way that he was looking for the vast majority of the season, where he had under 50 yards on several games. Oh, yeah. You look at all of this stuff, and I got love for him too. But you see all of this, and it's like, damn, Mike Tomlin will get you a winning record and will get you to the playoffs and will have 18, 19 consecutive winning seasons. But in today's day and age, that's not going to uplift your organization because you're not bad enough to get great enough. I was listening to Evan Cohen this morning. You're not bad enough to get good enough to be great. You understand what I'm saying? You're stuck in the middle of the road. And so I think that Mike Tomlin is a head coach in this league. I just think it's time for a new voice in Pittsburgh, and I think it's time for his voice to be heard with another franchise.
So, Stephen A., I can't figure out what you're saying. Did the Pittsburgh Steelers let Mike Tomlin down, or has Mike Tomlin let the Pittsburgh Steelers down?
Well, to me, it's a combination of both because of managerial decisions in terms of the personnel, because obviously it's not just him, it's Omar Khan and others and the personnel that they gave him to work with, but you were supposed to do something with the stuff that you had. And consistently over the years, you haven't been able to figure that out.
Yeah, see, it's hard for me to dismiss Mike Tomlin not having a losing record in 2 decades as a head coach in one spot. That's hard to do. When your name is being mentioned with Tom Landry and Bill Belichick for that kind of accomplishment, I'm not going to disrespect you in terms of the caliber of coach that you are.
Right.
I think this is a situation, if you're Pittsburgh, you should beg Mike Tomlin to want to be there. But if you're Mike Tomlin, why would you want to stay? The organization hasn't been serious about getting a franchise quarterback. Now, you've been complicit in that in terms of some of the decisions that have been made, but this is a results-based business. And the reality is that Mike Tomlin routinely gets more out of players that are nondescript than other coaches around the National Football League. I think this could be a scenario setting up where Mike Tomlin takes a beat from the NFL, does what Sean Payton did in his last season with the New Orleans Saints in 2021, got out of it, got the TV, and then found an opportunity for a better job. And then a couple of years from now, we could be talking about Mike Tomlin being right back at the top of his respective conference with a different organization because he's that kind of coach. Yeah. To me, the fact that we're having this conversation is a referendum on the Pittsburgh Steelers as an organization. It is not the same organization that had Dan Rudy leading it once upon a time or Art Rooney, not the second, the first. This is a different franchise, and the results are what they are. 7 straight one-and-dones in the playoffs, an NFL record, 5 straight postseason losses by double digits. Yeah. You are no longer a championship caliber organization. Wow. That is the reality. Mike Tomlin talks a lot about the standard being the standard. Well, that bar has been lowered in Pittsburgh, and we have come to expect early exits from them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said this as the season went on. The regular season doesn't matter anymore. Like this, we're way past just being above 500. And I think, like, and I appreciate, Canty, what you're saying, but I would say this, like, not having a losing season or being, average or, right above or right around 500 the whole time. If a player was 500 from 2016 on, they would move on from the player. And so I think this is both and. I think Tomlin should want a new start. And listen, there are some really good organizations and really good teams that are available at this point, and maybe more on the way. We have no idea. That I think he goes in. My question for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin be, where do you think it's going to be different? You just paid the highest paid. You got the highest paid defense in the league this past year. They did not play anywhere near the highest paid. You don't have a quarterback. You don't run the ball effectively. Like, what do you, DK Metcalf is your one. You got a good time. So what do you think you're just going to all of a sudden become a 13-win team? Like, this team they are not built for long-term success at this point. They're going to have some type of rebuild, and whether that's dumping players on defense, putting money in. But my concern is they've had this opportunity, and they haven't done anything with it. This is not a surprise. It wasn't a surprise with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. It wasn't a surprise with Aaron Rodgers. Like, when do we think it's going to change? I mean, he's had a fantastic Hall of Fame career, Mike Tomlin, but he's culpable as well. They all are. So I just don't see how this continues.
I agree with you about Mike Tomlin and what he milks out of players, with the exception of the quarterback position.
That's it.
What has happened since Big Ben Roethlisberger has been there? Now, I'm looking at the people that you've had, the Mason Rudolph, Mitchell Trubisky's, I got it, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, now Aaron Rodgers. I got all of that. But the point is that, again, if y'all can't figure out how to get your hands on a quarterback, if you can't figure out how to maximize potential, if you can't figure out that this is the person that you needed to draft, the quarterbacks that you've passed up on over the years, that's on the docket too.
Yeah, exactly.
It all comes with it. And so I'm saying, and then this year what makes it bad is that we saw the Steelers defense for years. We were looking at them and said, damn, if they could just get a quarterback.
Yep.
Because they had everything else.
Yep.
You had receivers, you had a defense. Well, it regressed.
Yeah.
Because this year their defense was suspect.
Yeah.
And your receiver wasn't what we were accustomed to. And so all those kind of things, at some point in time, you just see elements. Again, Mike Tomlin's a future Hall of Fame coach. And we know he's going to have a job elsewhere because he deserves it. What we're talking about also is the locals. The mayor of Pittsburgh was on our show yesterday and looking forward to the postseason, all this stuff. He just got elected, just got into office a few weeks ago. You know, you got those citizens in Pittsburgh. This is a franchise with 6 championships.
Yeah.
They got a right to sit up there and say, yo,
doubt.
what are we doing? And for you haven't won a single playoff game since 2000.
Almost 10 years.
That's why it's so hard for me, because as much as I love Mike Tomlin, as much as I believe in him, I know that if it were anybody else, we would be saying, you haven't won a playoff game since 2000.
100%.
Yeah. You have to remember, too, if Aaron Rodgers didn't go to Pittsburgh, they were going to have Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback. Like, are we kidding?
Which makes me look at Omar Khan.
Right.
Which makes me look at the
There
GM.
wasn't a lot of
That's right.
options for them.
Yeah.
It's not
You got to
like
find a better option than that.
Exactly. Like
No,
Green Bay has
but-
Malik Willis. Like there's organizations that have figured this thing out at the quarterback
Yes.
position. The Steelers had not.
Yeah, there were opportunities. Sam Darnold was up.
Yep.
Daniel Jones was up. Like, the draft. Yo, Brock Purdy is starting for the 49ers to go play. Like, there are places in the draft you could have drafted other quarterbacks that could have been better. You can't always blame, right? Like, at some point, the head coach and Omar, all of them they all do this together. They all choose the ingredients. Mike Tomlin's not a 19-year head coach with no say in that roster.
Of course.
Like, no
Definitely
chance.
not.
So they all have share blame, and it's a bummer. But I think he would be better at a different organization. Honestly,
I agree.
I mean, that's where I think.
Maybe to
Yeah, with a
Canty's
quarterback.
Point. Right.
Yeah.
Give Mike Tomlin a quarterback.
Right.
Yeah,
Maybe,
Give him a quarterback.
Maybe to Canty's point, if he does take a year off, look how much that benefited Mike
don't think he
Vrabel,
needs to.
Sean Payton.